2023 Mercedes-Benz EQE Sedan Review, a smaller, less expensive EQS. The EQE Sedan is a shrunken clone, with similar looks, tech and driving feel. Pros: just right sizing for a lot of drivers, costs less than the EQS, crazy tight turning circle with rear wheel steering, comfort and quality at the forefront. Cons: strange and hard to modulate brakes, technology can be overwhelming, poor rear visibility. The 2023 Mercedes-Benz EQE electric sedan is essentially a little brother to the full-size EQS in every way. It's a little smaller than the EQS, while still being larger inside than the gas-powered E-Class. You wouldn't know it, though, because from the outside and from behind the wheel, especially when taking advantage of its crazy tight turning circle, the EQE looks and drives a lot smaller than it is. If you're familiar with the EQS, though, the EQE will look immediately familiar to the point of being indistinguishable, especially inside. That includes the available, dash-dominating Hyperscreen, although we prefer the simpler, standard interface and the pretty dash with wood trim that comes with it. Really, you'd be forgiven and you have trouble telling the two sedans apart until you sit in the back seat and notice the legroom is merely ample rather than excessive. The EQE also has a fairly small, traditional trunk instead of the gaping, hatchback-esque cargo hold of the EQS. There are key differences besides size, chief among them being a much lower price. However, the EQE also drives different. Its smaller footprint grants it greater maneuverability and a more tossable nature on a winding road, enhanced to an almost absurd degree with the available rear-wheel steering. It also doesn't possess the same whisper-quiet cabin and soft, ride-on-a-cloud ride, but then that's an extremely lofty bar. The EQE is still plenty comfy and quiet. Now, besides comparisons to its big brother, would we get an EQE rather than Mercedes' tried-and-true, gas-powered E-Class? Short answer, yes. Its ample range and quick charging should satisfy all but the most ardent road trip warriors or those who cannot install a charger or 240-volt outlet in their garage. It looks, drives and just feels more special than an E-Class, although we can't imagine the AMG EQE will deliver the same driving and audible drama as the E63. And in case you're wondering how the EQE lines up to that electric car elephant in the room, Tesla, the EQE falls closer to the Model S in terms of size, but fills the price gap between the Model 3 and Model S. And while Tesla gets away with minimalist design inside its cars, Mercedes customers expect content and ambience galore, and they get it. What's new for 2023? The 2023 Mercedes-Benz EQE is an all-new model. What are the EQE's interior and in-car technology like? The EQE feels roomy and cozy. The seats are comfortable, and feature rich synthetic leatherette or authentic leather. Heated front seats are standard, ventilated and massaging seats are available. There are a number of trim options, including wood or laser-etched plastics, and everything you touch feels substantial. Ambient lighting throughout the cabin helps create more ambience as the sun goes down, and there are a variety of color schemes from which to choose. You can also customize your own multicolor lighting landscape. Every EQE has the same infotainment system with a zero-layer interface unique to the EQ line that we find easier to use than Mercedes' usual MBUX setup. The base system features a digital instrument panel and a large, portrait-style infotainment touchscreen with a handful of physical, touch-sensitive buttons below. The upgrade is the Hyperscreen, one gets an even bigger infotainment screen, an extra touchscreen for the passenger, and a single piece of glass bridging all the screens and the dash. It's a lot. With either setup, there's a lot to figure out and it can seem daunting, but we find it better executed than other systems, including the BMW i4 and 9's iDrive 8. Once you figure it all out, you'll have a wealth of information and customization at your fingertips. The system will bring relevant functions, like displaying your next turn, to the foreground automatically, and voice recognition can further help you to have to dig through menus. Saying "Hey Mercedes" activates voice control, but don't be surprised if the voice assistant chimes in whenever you discuss the brand in the car. An optional head-up display employs augmented reality to do things like highlight the car in front of you when using adaptive cruise control, or projecting arrows overlaying the road to point out your next turn when navigating. The EQE also features a fingerprint scanner that can activate your customized driver profile. You can register up to 7 profiles per vehicle. 196.6 inches in length with a 122.8-inch wheelbase, the EQE is basically a shorter copy of the EQS, by 10.7 inches overall, and 3.6 inches between the axles. Despite being smaller, there's plenty of legroom in the EQE, just not with acres to spare like in the EQS. Most passengers won't have complaints about headroom, especially with the airy feel the sunroof affords the cabin, though some taller passengers might find their heads a little closer to the roof than they'd like. Unlike the EQS, whose whole rear hatch, glass included, Raises up when opened. The EQE Sedan has a more traditional trunk. The specs say it has 15 cubic feet, but in our real-world testing, we found it holds less luggage than other mid-size sedans that have a similar volume. In reality, the space is more comparable to a compact sedan.